East of the NFC East podcast. My name is Sean Gnitzcavich with my co-host Jeremy Goode. Jeremy Goode, what's good?
All is good, all is well. Excited to be back.
I'll tell you who I don't think is very good is Marcus Mariota anymore.
Yeah, we'll get into it for sure. There's a lot to say about him. It's interesting that it's getting across the league too how bad he is. And he's had such an opportunity in these preseason games. So lot to say on both sides. I think definitely more on the bad side, but yeah, it's an interesting story out of Philadelphia. And Philadelphia loves a good controversy like that, like a backup quarterback controversy. So there you go.
Well, I also think that he didn't benefit from being one of the only two games on Thursday night because everybody wanted something to talk about on Friday before they hit the weekend, and
Sure.
Marcus Mariota was an easy target.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. So today we're going to do a little recap of what's going on in the NFC East, and then we're going to hop into the biggest breakouts for each team in the NFC East and the biggest Kenny Galladay's of 2022, aka the biggest disappointments of the 2023 season. So players.
That's your words too, Sean, not mine.
Listen, I think every Giants fan can agree that Kenny Galladay was incredibly frustrating throughout all of last year. But you kind of gave up on him after like week 3. You're just like, he's just not even. You know what, I'd rather take Richie James right now, and I'll take Colin Johnson with a torn ACL.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? We were able to find some breakout players at the end of last year. Isaiah Hodgins really came in clutch. Had a nice 100-yard game against the Vikings in the playoffs. You know, I think he had 3 touchdowns in the last 6 games he played. So I mean, he became a player for us.
Sure.
Yeah, and so far you want to start off with the Eagles preseason game. What's going on with the Eagles?
Sure. They tied the Browns 18-18 in Philadelphia a few days ago on Thursday night. They've been practicing with the Browns. They had two practices against one another. I think on Monday and Tuesday. It seemed like the Browns, quote unquote, won the practice on Monday. Then the Eagles destroyed them on Tuesday. And then the game played out. It's like, I guess it was meant to be a tie. It's such a weird score, 18-18.
Yeah.
I
thought scoregami?
I would think so. If they count preseason for scoregami, I definitely think – because 18 is such a weird number to begin with. Yeah, how are we going to get 2? But anyway, I actually thought the Eagles week 1 against Baltimore played really well preseason-wise, a lot of their different units. I didn't see that as much week 2 against the Browns. I thought offensively they didn't move the ball as well. Defensively, I thought they were decent, but offensively I didn't think they moved the ball. We'll get into Mariota now. He played a lot. He didn't look good. He's a backup quarterback for a reason.
Yeah.
The Eagles are looking for someone in the backup to be similar to Jalen Hurts, who can run a similar offense. Mariota seemed like the guy. Gardner Minshew wasn't the guy last year, but he could throw a little bit, and he put a good game against the Cowboys last year too. So everybody wanted a new backup, which, it made sense. I think Minshew was okay-ish, but not good enough ultimately. But a lot of, they want someone similar to Hurts. And now you have someone who runs a similar system to Hurts, and everybody doesn't like him. He hasn't been good. He's been bad. Don't get me wrong.
No,
but
I was watching it, and I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
He doesn't even seem like he should be on any roster. I mean, maybe it's just the bright lights, but
it's tough because he's playing with backups, which backup line, it doesn't help in those situations. He doesn't have many good players to throw to. He's not throwing to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, etc. He doesn't have Lane Johnson to protect him. He doesn't have Mailata either, or Landon Dickerson in the middle. So it's tough for him. I get that. The stuff that he's just been so when he hasn't been pressured unreasonably because the line's been awful. He's just been lazy and throwing off his back foot, not steadying his feet, not stepping into the pocket, completely overthrowing receivers poorly. He had one throw to Calcaterra last week that he should have completed close to the red zone, sailed it, and it was picked off. It was just a bad throw. So he's been bad. It's just tough. I don't know what Eagles fans expect. Eagles fans expect a lot out of the backup quarterback after Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, which was awesome. But it's just a hard position to nail. Everybody, if you have a good backup quarterback, something's wrong. They probably should be starting somewhere else.
That's fair.
there aren't even 32 good starting quarterbacks in the NFL, I'd say.
I'll tell you who
So
has a pretty good backup though is the guy who played against you, DTR Dorian Thompson Robinson.
he looks good. He was someone who
Looks good.
I liked that the I thought the Eagles would take a good look at during the draft this year. They took Tanner McKee. Well, they took the UCLA quarterback went before
Yeah,
they
to the
took
Browns. Yeah.
before we could take him reasonably. McKee looks good though. I'll get into that a little bit, but yeah, Mariota he just hasn't been good. He's looked bad, lazy. We gave him $5 million. I think it's guaranteed too, so it's not like as simple as like, oh, you can cut him and then just take because there should be other quarterbacks in the next few weeks on the market who could be definitely better than Mariota. It's hard to say at this point. Apparently, in several practices, Mariota's looked okay,
Hmm.
but the preseason games, he's been bad. He can move, he can run. I mean, it's tough for the Eagles because it's like if you want someone who can run an offense like Hurts, Mariota's probably that guy. I don't know how much better you're going to get.
It's just, I mean, if and like you said, I mean, that's probably the best excuse that I feel like nobody's really defending him, but he really is.
Yeah,
He's running with the twos,
yeah,
and people that are probably threes and maybe not even make the roster.
yeah,
But I mean,
and
I'm looking around the league. I mean, Tanner McKee though. I know Tanner McKee got a lot of hype coming
yeah.
out, especially from PFF. Mike Renner was big on Tanner McKee. He thought that guy was like a second round pick.
Yeah, I mean he's accurate. He has a pretty solid, decent, strong arm, which is intriguing. I don't know if you want to throw him out. If you need to throw him out there in the regular season, knock on wood, for any reason, that's a tall task for someone like Tanner McKee, who was fifth or sixth round pick. But like, at least it seems like they can groom him into a backup next year in 2 years, and he could be solid there going forward. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's your third stringer right now. We'll see. I mean, we got Tommy DeVito in our third string, and you know what? People love him. He's a
Right?
mafia boy. I'll tell you, our we have no depth at
Yeah.
offensive line, and he's getting wrecked, but he is getting out of it. I mean,
It doesn't take
if
much for
you're
the
watching the
people in North
preseason,
Jersey
yeah.
to rally behind someone with the last name DeVito.
Oh yeah, no, he is very Jersey as he gets. I don't
Hmm.
know if he's going to make the roster. I doubt he does. But you know what? It's fun if you want to watch the entire preseason game to see him kind of scramble, run for his life, and make some plays in the
Yeah,
meantime.
yeah.
But speaking of the Giants preseason game, we looked amazing. We looked great. I was so excited because we had our ones running against the Panthers ones, and I
Hmm.
will tell you this, just a disclaimer before I get into the Daniel Jones, Darren Waller, Mike Kaffick, Brian Dable love fest. They were missing two of their star players on the defensive side of the ball for the Panthers: Derek Brown, the defensive tackle, and Brian Burns, who is one of the better edge
Very
rushers
good.
in the league.
Yes.
But that being said, the Giants were playing vanilla. The Panthers were playing vanilla, but Daniel Jones looked amazing. Hitting Darren Waller. First off, he was 8 of 9, should have been 9 of 9. He
Hmm.
hit Darren Waller for a nice little crosser for 15 yards. A safety came in, rocked the ball out of his hands. Should have been 9 for 9. Perfect. He spread the ball around. He got Paris Campbell got a reception. Isaiah Hodgins got a reception. And then Daniel Billinger brought it home. He loved Darren Waller. I mean, he targeted him 4 times and essentially connected with him 4 times, but only counted for 3 for the 30 yards. If that one counted, it would have been 4 for 45, which
Yeah.
I know some people were calculating the numbers because of how quick he got those receptions and yards. He would have went off for like, I think 10,000 yards in the season. That's what he was on pace
Sure.
for.
Listen,
Yeah.
why,
Which,
why stop there?
and on top of that, Jalen Hyatt made his big debut
Hmm.
because it kind of looked rough in the beginning. He got a couple of catches for negative yards, and then he had this wide open. What we're looking for Jalen Hyatt is that he can get off and accelerate and get that separation, and he was wide open on an out route, drops it perfectly in his hands, and you're like, damn. Next play, just right up Tyrod Taylor. He goes, well, this is the one thing he was not pressed, and that's like the one thing. Like he had a free release and
Hmm.
just beelined it, but he was like 7 yards ahead of him for that 33-yard touchdown, and that felt godly.
Yeah, I think we know that Hyatt can run down we saw the Tennessee, he can run down the
Oh
field
yeah,
30 yards. He could be the kind of guy that I think if he wants to expand a little bit into the NFL, he could be a ball in space kind of guy at the line of scrimmage. So like maybe he works around there. Maybe there are times where he gets a catch or two, only gets 3 yards, maybe a yard, maybe he loses a few. But he could also be dangerous around the line of scrimmage and having going up one on one against a corner. Maybe a linebacker sneaks out there, but maybe an unathletic linebacker. We'll see. I think that could be something that Giants try to implement with him, especially since he's a rookie and there's a lot of time to do stuff around, get creative around there in
Yeah,
that
and
part of the field.
it's definitely clear that they're trying to do that behind the line of scrimmage. Like I said, he had a bunch of I think in the first preseason game he had a negative reception, and then this last
Yeah.
game he had two before he really broke out there. But I mean, it's very clear. I mean, in practice, he's been running with the ones a lot more. He's been making those deep plays. Like when he gets off, I think that he's due. He's at least going to be targeted like 3 to 4 times downfield a game if we can get him in there. And I think that we'll utilize him as that. He might
That's
not
quite
be
a bit too.
rotation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like if
if
he's
he's
able to
averaging, go ahead.
yeah, if he's able to get in, like, because he has good hands deep too. Like
Yeah.
that drop was kind of rare for him. Like he's able to haul it in and track the ball. I think he could. I think he could get like high end unless he just breaks out, and he definitely could. We'll see, but I think they're gonna ease him in. I think high end he ends up with like 700 yards. I think
Wow.
low end. I mean, what do you think he could go higher or no?
It. I
mean,
I
he
can't.
wants to be
It depends on
rookie.
how they break down the offense and who gets which receiver gets percentage of targets, how they implement Hyatt from the beginning. He is a rookie. He is a third rounder, so he is kind of a specialist right now where he runs, and that's basically his biggest
Yeah.
trait. So it's hard to say. Maybe several of those down the field plays, yeah, maybe that gets him to 700. I would just
Oh,
think that,
I think that he's probably closer to like a. I think he's around the 4 or 500 just
mhm,
because I don't think he's like we don't have one clear like number one wide receiver, but we do
right.
have so many mouths to feed.
Yes.
And if we do have one clear wide receiver, it is Darren Waller, and that became very clear. But I
Yeah.
did like how Daniel Jones spread the ball around on that drive. I mean, that was
Mhm.
just like an unstoppable drive, exactly what we wanted to see. Defensively, Kayvon Thibodeau looked like a game wrecker. He had one sack, and then he also had this key holding call that was called on him because they could not keep up with him. I will say on that one sack, he was completely unguarded. Ike Ekwonu, the first round pick for the Panthers last year, I don't know, confusion, just let him run right by. But I
Yeah.
mean, he showed his speed and he took advantage of that situation. So something you'd like to see. Timon Fox, who I think was an undrafted edge rusher last year. He had some playing time. Lawrence Taylor said he was one of his favorite players because they both played at North Carolina. He had another sack this game. Like I think in terms of a
Mhm.
pass rusher, we have Jihad Ward's like our third edge, but he's more of a run stopper. I think Timon Fox could definitely be our third edge rusher right now.
Got it.
Yeah, and I mean everything else from the game I think was, preseason. So
Yeah.
you could rip it apart, but the safeties again looked really good. I thought both Dane Belton and Jason Pinnock looked good.
Mhm.
Dane Belton had another tackle for loss. Like I feel like they might use him in kind of like a Landon Collins, old Landon Collins role, not Landon Collins last year when he's a shell of himself.
Right.
But yeah, kind of moving around there. And then anything else? Did you watch the game? Were you able to catch the Giants game?
I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Giants
Oh
fans.
no! But, hey, listen to
I
me.
didn't catch it. I saw that. I think maybe I'm wrong. Did Thibodeau play?
Yeah, Thibodeau. Yeah, so
It
that's
looked
what I
like he
said.
got.
He had that sack and that
It
the
looked like
pass
he had a
rush.
sack against
Yeah.
Bryce,
Mhm.
my QB. And I saw
Yeah.
that. And otherwise, I didn't see much. It's tough. Like preseason, like it's a tough product to watch in some ways. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know. It's just
I was looking forward to it because it was a Giant starters starting,
absolutely. It's
and
your
the
team,
defense
yeah.
looked disruptive. I mean, obviously the Eagles aren't going to be playing their starters; they were just in the Super Bowl, and they have pretty much the same team.
It's tough because like they haven't played one starter. And it's like a lot of the backups are intriguing, but then you get to the third quarter, and it's like, oh my god, some of these guys are borderline Canadian Football League.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
But
actually somebody who came in from the Canadian Football League. who's that? The quarterback for the Jaguars looked really good,
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's a side tangent.
yeah, I mean, Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter played, which is nice, but it's like
Mhm.
Nolan Smith is playing into the second quarter. It's like if he's going to start off as a backup, I don't really want him getting hurt. I mean, he kind of roughed up his shoulder a little bit. It wasn't that big of a deal,
Yeah,
but like it's like I don't know. I think preseason. I think they're going to get rid of preseason eventually. These preseason games because of injuries.
yeah.
Right now, some of these backups, Eagles and Giants, I don't know if they should be playing because it's like
Well,
you
it's
want
it's tough when you have somebody like we have Wyatt Davis, who's a guard playing
right.
tackle,
Yeah.
and Tommy DeVito, who maybe will be a practice squad player, but he's getting wrecked out there. That's
Yeah.
the thing. I don't think that they're going to get rid of it because I feel like enough fans go to the games, they generate enough revenue. But I do think we'll be seeing more and more fringe roster players playing
Well,
in sports
I mean,
rosters.
they're going to go to an 18-game schedule soon, which will bleed into one preseason game. And at that point, you'll have two preseason games. And then you'll be like, well, starters definitely are going to play in the two games. Backups probably won't either. So I don't know. I mean, third teams, fourth teams, don't get some looks. But like, if you don't have like many competitions either in camp, it's like,
You want to, well, yeah. If you don't have competitions, then there's really no
which the
reason to
Eagles
be
don't have
playing.
that many. I
Well,
don't know about the
I did
Giants.
notice the linebacker game, and I was going to say Kobe Dean looked amazing with that
Yeah.
arm tackle that ended up being a strip at the goal line.
I kind of feel bad. I forget which running back that was for the Browns, but it's like that's it. That's a moment where he's gonna, assuming he's not like a rookie that they took early. I
Yeah,
forget who it was. He's
I'm
gonna
trying to
get
figure.
cut. So I feel bad because
Yeah,
it was kind of like it was a good play by Dean, but it kind of I remember you texting me and I agree. It was like it was kind of like it's a good
it
poke,
did
but
look
like
like a peanut punch.
a smart running back like should hold the ball like tighter, and
Oh
that
yeah,
wouldn't happen. So like
yeah,
maybe he doesn't get in the end zone because of that, but like I doubt most top 2025 running backs are fumbling the ball in that situation. But you know, this is a good play by Dean. That was his first game. But he didn't play week one against the Ravens, so I was glad to see him out there running around.
yeah. And I know Zach Cunningham played a lot too.
Yes,
I was reading up. They said that Zach Cunningham kind of established himself as a two. I mean, I don't know what Miles Jack did to be honest, but I've
he
always
didn't
loved
get.
Miles Jack. He
I
didn't
did
get in at
too.
all.
He got it late in the third quarter, maybe fourth quarter. I think the writing's on the wall. He just announced he was retiring. I think yesterday. He
No, he
wasn't
did
gonna.
not.
Oh, he did. Yeah,
Really?
he
Miles
wasn't gonna.
Jack?
I think the writing was on the wall. He wasn't gonna make the team. I don't know. He's been here 2 weeks. Nothing's really clicked. I think
Wow.
that. Yeah, I think.
I mean, I don't really know what happened last year on the Steelers, but like,
I
you
don't
know,
either.
I remember in his Jaguars days, people were like, "Oh, maybe the Giants should have picked Miles Jack
Yeah.
over Eli Apple." I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't remember exactly
Maybe
what."
they still should have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, he was a cancer to the playoff team.
Yeah.
I think moving on, Commanders. The biggest news, obviously, Sam Howell is named the starting quarterback, which I
Yeah.
think we all thought. Ron Rivera was teasing, you know, like, oh, don't forget about Jacoby Brissett. But I think everybody in the league, including Commanders fans, want to see what they have in Sam Howell.
They have to start Hal at this point, and it's funny because like Brissett would have been a good backup for Hurts. I think he would have been better than Mariota, but at the same
Oh
time,
yeah,
it's like Brissett probably wants to go somewhere where he's going to play, and the chances of him playing in Washington because Hal's bad, opposed to like Hurts getting injured. I think Washington's a better bet too. I
yeah,
don't know what he's being paid in Washington, but
yeah. I
like
mean, no, you'd rather play somewhere where you think, especially if Sam Howell really
right.
struggles, which I don't think he will. I think they're going to ride him out
Yeah,
until the Wagons
I don't
come
know if
off.
he will, but if he does, you have Brissett who easily can jump in and get some wins.
Mhm.
He's a
Yeah,
definition of serviceable in my opinion, especially as a backup. So like I think even if the Eagles proper set, fans would have some reason to complain about him here. So like I
oh
don't know,
yeah.
it's tough. But yeah,
No,
Hal named a starter.
it's exciting.
Yeah,
It's exciting for us. I mean, who knows? I mean, I was excited every time I got to play Taylor Heineke last year or Carson,
yeah,
But
me
we'll
too.
see.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys. I mean, they got the best of you. Who knows? Who was starting? Do you? It wasn't Carson, right?
when the Commanders beat
When the
us,
Commanders beat you?
it was Heineke.
Yeah, I was gonna
When
say.
Carson played us early in the year, we the Eagles defense knew him like the back of their hand, and
Yeah.
Carson just crumbled. Like Brandon Graham had 3 sacks. I think they sacked Carson like 6 or 7 times, maybe more. It was wild. And then Heineke jumped in. Eagles also had the worst game offensively, defensively you could imagine. They had a chance at the end, but yeah, Heineke. Uh, he has ability, so I'll give him that. He definitely earned his spot in the next few years to stick around the NFL. He can play a little. Not great. He's not a great
Yeah.
player, but
Yeah. Yeah,
he
he's in Atlanta seeing what he can do.
he can
I
play.
think
He
they're going
won
to
some
stick over
games.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cowboys, their preseason game, they did not play any of the starters either. They lost. Not that it really matters.
Hmm.
Deuce Vaughn did get a touchdown. I believe it was a 14-yard touchdown, but he did have 5 carries for 14 yards, which is kind of a little scary. I feel like that's kind of he's like that boomer bust because he is so
Yeah.
small. If the blocking's not there for him, he doesn't have that open lane to squeeze through.
Yeah.
I feel like, and that kind of shows with his numbers there, but he does have that explosiveness.
Yeah.
And then I think the bigger story is that Jalen Tolbert, who was their 3rd-round pick last year and did absolutely nothing,
Hmm.
looked like they were really trying to get him the ball, and he had a good game. He had 4 receptions for 66 yards. He looked electric in the game. I think, at least the highlights that I watched, I think that he was definitely the bright spot. If with these games, you try to just find somebody who maybe makes a difference that you could put in the regular season and see a role from there. And I think Jalen Tolbert's definitely carving it out with performances like that. So something to note.
Sure.
All right. Anything else you want to get into? Recent news? Anything come to mind?
Eagles cut Greedy Williams,
Oh,
cornerback.
no way.
They
That's the thing. I didn't even know he was like. I just remember,
they
first
signed
round,
him.
second round
They
pick.
signed him, I think, before like Slay re-signed and then Bradbury re-signed. So it's like it was a good depth move at the time, something that they would need. And then they just got like, then Slay's here. And you still have Maddox, you draft Ringo. Josh
Yeah,
Jacobs looking pretty solid. A lot of these undrafted free agents like Eli Ricks could stick around. And Greedy Williams also has just been awful in training camp. He had a bad missed tackle where he let a receiver for the Ravens get out of bounds, where Justin Tucker then kicked like a 60-yard field goal to go into halftime. It's a shame. It's okay, but I liked having the depth at corner. But if Greedy Williams was that bad, it just wasn't worth holding on to him.
yeah. We actually have his brother's Rodarius Williams.
Oh
He's
yeah,
actually older than him and was drafted after him, but we
interesting.
have him. He's still on the roster. His rookie year, he actually looked okay. Got injured, and new regime. He's like, probably won't make the roster either. But
Yeah,
you know,
injuries. Well, it's the same thing with Greedy in Cleveland too. He got hurt, and
yeah, never got to show
yeah,
what he was capable of. All right, so you ready to get into these breakout players? I
let's
think we're going
do
to
it.
go every team's breakout player. We'll each have one breakout player for each team, and then we will get into the next year's disappointments, the Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay days of each team
Sounds
for
good.
next year. All
Your
right.
words. I'd say again, your words. You could also throw in Jalen Rager if it makes you feel better.
Jalen Rager, but I feel like you guys gave up on him early,
Well, he's been dreadful in Minnesota too. So
Yeah, no, it's tough.
yeah, better to let me tell you, if any NFL team is listening, rip the Band-Aid off as soon as you can. It's just worth it.
Yeah, and that's something that I think successful regimes do
Yeah.
is just play. I don't care what draft
Admit
pick
your
you are.
mistake. Hmm.
Yeah, and you know what? Before we get in there, I will say Jordan Riley. I brought him up last week. He was our 6th or 7th round pick out of Oregon, the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And it also just came out. Wink Martindale said like they knew that his tape was atrocious, but his size and his speed, they're like we can make something out of him, and he looks really good in preseason, just as a depth piece, especially against Iran. He had a couple tackles for loss, really
Yeah.
stuffing it on the line of scrimmage. So just somebody to look out for, Jordan Riley. I like having as much depth as possible, as long as there's somebody making a good play. I don't care if it's sexy Dexy or not. Although
Yeah, I was
like
gonna say,
the chance,
show the
dude.
shirt, show the
Yeah,
shirt. My
dude.
God,
This is a gift from my little sister. She also got me both my Joel Embiid jerseys. So
love that.
yeah, she
I
cares about me.
You get good gifts. My goodness.
Good sister. So, anyways, I think. Do you want to start off with your first player here?
Yeah,
What do you
sure.
want to go?
I'll start off. What do we do? We're doing breakouts to begin.
Breakouts first.
I'll start with Washington. A few guys I was thinking about, but I'm going to go with my guy Brian Robinson, Roll Tide. Second year in the league out of Alabama. Was splitting carries with Antonio Gibson last year. Then it looked like he was getting more touches, and Gibson was fading out. I think he takes a lot of Antonio Gibson's touches this year, probably touchdowns too, ultimately.
Yeah.
I still think Gibson will get some. We'll see. But I think some of Robinson's stats last year in 12 games, he had 205 carries, solid number, just under 800 yards at 797 yards, which is 3.9 yards per average. Not awful. I think that number improves with more carries and more of a solidified spot on the offense. And he was able to find the end zone 2 times. He also caught a few passes, had a touchdown too. Maybe he could do something in the backfield, catching the ball as well. I think he just has a bigger role. He's a starter. I think he'll be very good as a runner with Washington. Should help out Sam Howell a good bit.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he had 800 yards essentially in 12 games after being shot, and like
Yeah.
those yards definitely did ramp up as the year went on. I remember watching a game last season, the last season in the preseason, and it was a Washington stream. I was just bored, and Brian Robinson was just on the scene killing it. And I knew from his days at Alabama, right? Like he was, I mean, he was just that north to south hard nosed runner. But they were talking
Yes.
like he was going to supplant Antonio Gibson, and I think that he does take a lot of those roles, especially with Eric Bieniemy last year. Like he really was relied on Isaiah Pacheco as a north
Yes.
south, and he's a much better. I mean, taken in the same draft, 4 rounds ahead of him, and I think that he's just going to blow up. I do think Antonio Gibson could have a Jerick McKinnon type role in
Sure.
Eric Bieniemy's, but I do believe, and I've heard from people who have heard from beat writers throughout
Oh,
like in all
wow.
these videos. I've
Insider
heard
access with Sean.
through the grapevine, the beat writers are saying that they prefer Robinson. So
I think he's a better player. I think having someone like Gibson though as a back, it's weird because like Gibson's been pretty productive since he's been in the NFL with the different roles he's had, and I think I think he might be more of a backup to Robinson, but it's a pretty solid backup too.
oh no, I think they're a solid 1-2 punch. I just think that Robinson will probably be that 3
Yeah,
down back.
yeah.
Anything else you want to get it? And also, I'll tell you what, he's getting picked way too low in fantasy. I will
Yeah,
tell you,
I've
I
noticed
have
that.
him, I think, in like 67% of my drafts right now because he's going behind Antonio Gibson. And I mean, just like, I think the touchdowns are going to be there. He only had 2 touchdowns last year. I feel like he's going to get a little bit more work in the red zone, especially being the hard nosed back that he is. We'll see.
His junior year, 2020 year, where Alabama won the championship, he backed up Najee Harris. So it means he hasn't had as many touches too in college. His senior year, he started, and he got primary touches, but he also shared touches with different other running backs in Alabama too his senior year. So carrying wise, beat up wise, I think he's as in good shape as someone like Miles Sanders, who sat behind Saquon Barkley, Penn State,
Yeah.
and then started his senior year. So that's also working for him, I think. That recovery from being shot in the leg is just amazing, and
That's a huge thing.
and it's and,
Not
he,
a
and,
lot of
he,
people
and
are
it's
talking
like
about.
and he just missed a month of games, so like pretty impressive. Looking forward to seeing him run well, hopefully not against the Eagles, but I think he'll be good year 2.
Yeah, I hope he is too, for my fantasy reasons, and also because anybody who's just like gets shot and comes back that hard, I mean, respect. I don't
Here's
want
a
to see the big hat though. The big hat that he was wearing all
Yeah,
last
that
year.
was silly.
I think Dude, I keep knocking over Saquon. I'm so sorry, Saquon. Especially when I'm talking about Brian Robinson, dude.
Listen,
That's
say
so
that
disrespectful.
that thing. That's Jalen Carter in a few weeks. Let me tell you. When do we play? We play you guys
Oh
late.
yeah, he's my
we
elbow on
always
Christmas Day.
we always play you guys late. In, like both games, it's always late.
I know,
I
dude.
don't get it.
It's Christmas Day. I think it's the first one, and the second one
Like 2 weeks
is
later, yeah.
2 weeks.
It's
Yeah.
last week.
All right, that's fine. You know what? It'll give us some time. That way, we'll maybe put a little bit more respect on Daniel Jones' name
There
by
you
the time
go.
that we finally face off.
There you go.
Anybody's having an MVP caliber year. And now, before we get too sidetracked, anything else you have on Brian Robinson that you want to
Nothing
say?
on Brian Robinson. Who is your Commanders breakout?
Well, I will say that Brian Robinson was also my top, but this guy was a
Mm,
close second, and that is Jahan Dotson.
yeah.
And Jahan Dotson was the 15th pick by them last year out of Penn State.
Hmm.
He was injured, he battled with some injuries, but when he was on the field, he was electric. He
Yeah.
played in 12 games, 523 yards, 7 touchdowns.
That's a
I mean, if
lot.
you just, yeah, I mean, think about that. The pace that he was on, he would have had about 800 yards and 10 touchdowns in a rookie season.
Yeah.
I also, this is a stat that I got from Bootleg Football. He was 62% in contested catches. I think 63.2% in contested catches, which is 11th best in the league. For somebody that short, it's just
Yeah.
he has that elite separation and speed, and the fact that he can also get those contested catches. He's essentially, I mean, with the contested catchability and his ability to separate, you can throw the ball to him whenever. If Terry McLaurin is your first read and Jahan Dotson is your second, I feel like you feel safe throwing it to Jahan Dotson.
Yeah. I almost. It's not even a knock on you. It's almost like he isn't even like worthy of a breakout kind of player because it seems like last year he broke out for the time that he played. So like
Yeah,
it's not even like a criticism on like that part. It's just like he was that, but like he definitely like more time, more games he plays. I think he definitely like becomes more of a true break on player. But in a way, he broke out last year with the time he played.
yeah, I agree. I just think that with that second year receiver jump, and usually it's from receivers that show in that rookie year that they can be
Yeah.
elite. It's that second year that they take that next step. Maybe it's just because they know they got the ball rolling. I've heard in training camp, Sam Howell has a great connection with him.
Mhm.
And I think he's poised for like with this breakout. Because I mean, if you look on paper, obviously he missed games. You know, like I said, with projected, but I think if he's healthy, he's easily 1,000-yard receiver.
Oh yeah, especially with 17 games.
I
Yeah.
mean, who knows if the touchdowns will be the same level, but I think he could probably still get 7, 8 touchdowns again.
I would think
Also,
so. He
yeah,
seems like he has a knack for getting into the end zone.
yeah, especially with that separation too,
Yeah,
and
speed
like being
kills.
able to. So yeah, he finds that open zone in the end zone. I mean, I'll tell you what, a lot of people didn't think he was going to be a first round pick last year.
Hmm.
And when they took him 15th, and I feel like Washington likes to do that because they also took Emmanuel Forbes early last year, who is another
Yeah.
undersized, or this year early. But you know what? It worked out with John Dotson. We'll see about Emmanuel Forbes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speed kills at the wide receiver position in the NFL. It absolutely kills. So that's why you gotta. Their teams will take them in the first. You'll take 6 receivers now in the first, which is wild. But
Yeah.
uh,
Well, when you hit on him, it works.
it's a big position. It's probably this. Besides the quarterback and your left tackle,
Yeah.
it's it's probably the second
You
highest
could
position
always
on your
rely.
offense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and just think about even like the Seahawks had two, and I didn't even really get to that, but that Jackson Smith and Jibka in that Cowboys game, like
Yeah.
you could never have enough good wide receivers.
No, no doubt. I like that pick too for Seattle. It's with pairing him up with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
Yeah. So you want to want to save the best for last? You want to do Cowboys next, or
Sure, I'll do Cowboys. Who do I have for Cowboys? Let's see. Cowboys. I said no one. No, just kidding. Who do I have? I have Tyler Smith. Um, I think Dallas, he played last year as a rookie on the offensive line. He gave up a few sacks, but as a rookie, even though he's on the Cowboys, that's understandable. They're not sure if he's going to be a guard or a tackle this year right now. I think if you put him as a guard with his size and his ability to move, I think that's more sure of a thing than tackle, than committing him to tackle, where like if shit hits the fan from the beginning, it's going to be tough to like keep on sending him out there. I think you can hide him more at guard, have him boost his confidence from the start, and then have him just be a really productive player at the guard position, and then maybe move him out to tackle ultimately. But I think he was pretty solid on the Cowboys last year. I think he'll
Yeah.
grow too this year, wherever he plays on the offensive line, protecting Dak and also creating some holes in the offensive line for Tony Pollard.
Yeah. I know the big story with Tyler Smith is that the Cowboys took him shockingly again in the first round last year at 25th. Well, I think they were on a live stream with Sean McVay, who was like, "Oh my God, we thought we'd get him at the end of the second round," and it was that all blew up. But I mean, he impressed. Like he played like a first round tackle
Yeah,
last year, which I don't even think he was expected to do. And the one thing I will say is that he did lead the league in penalties for offensive linemen with
yeah, that's a
13,
problem.
but that could help with his breakout. I mean, as a rookie and also like just kind of thrust into action. So I think that could definitely attribute to his breakout is getting a little bit more responsible. Getting that technique down, learning how to get away with some things.
Yeah,
Because let's face it, everybody holds. But
yeah, that's a good point. I feel like there's only one. If you had 13 penalties on the offensive line, there's only one way to go, and that's down for the next year too. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, technique. You're gonna have to learn how to where to put your hands and how to block properly, because that, I mean, almost averaging one per game is kind of insanity on the offensive line, and would
oh
probably
yeah,
result contribute in some losses here and there, maybe. But yeah, I think he gets better at that probably, especially going to year two.
oh yeah, I agree there. Let's see, and I think for me, my number two pick, my breakout pick. I'll tell you what, it was going to be Jalen Tolbert because he was atrocious last year. He
That's
only
right. That would
had
be a true breakout. Yeah,
and he was their third round pick, 88. Last year he only had 2 receptions for 12 yards in 8 games, which is atrocious. And I know that he was dealing with injuries as well. I do think that he could definitely make that jump this year. I don't think he's in a, but I think it's a jump from being a non-contributor to being somebody who can be their
be a part of their offense.
3A, 3B.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be a part of their offense. Like I said, he was targeted. He had 4 receptions for 66 yards in that preseason game. He didn't really get any action in that first preseason game. I think that he could make that jump up to being like a 400, 500-yard receiver for him, especially with the
Yeah.
absence of Noah Brown, who you said who just was a contributor last year.
Hmm.
I think they're going to try to get him. I feel like everything that the beat is saying is that he's becoming more involved in the offense, getting second team, some first team reps. So I would say Jalen Tolbert, I think, is probably my best bet. Is there anybody
Yeah.
who you want to put into consideration, though? Or say anything about Tolbert?
He's at a good position, I think, to grow. I think wide receiver from year 1 to 2 has a lot of well, they'll always have a lot of ability to quote unquote break out, just because it's tough to trust a rookie receiver, big spotlight situations. I think they learn a lot during their rookie year in the offseason and training camp going to year two. Some of the nerves are away, they're there to stay. They're also thinking, contracts coming up in a few years even. So like they're on the clock in a way. I
Yeah,
think it's the right position. He was definitely intriguing for the Cowboys when they took him. Where was he? South Alabama or
South Alabama. Yeah,
okay. It was either that or UAB. Yeah, they I don't think Michael Gallup is that intriguing as a receiver on that team anymore. So that
Yeah,
also,
that's what I was thinking as well. I think he's gonna
yeah.
maybe dig into that Michael Gallup, and I know that they gave him that big contract, Michael Gallup. But if I was the Cowboys, with how disappointing he was coming out of the ACL,
Hmm.
I would consider moving on to him. I don't know what his guaranteed is, but I think that he's somebody that maybe Jalen Tolbert starts carving out more of a role there.
Possibly.
Yeah. Do you have any honorable mentions for Dallas?
I guess Deuce Vaughn. He's he's interesting because of the kind of change they could have between him and Pollard. Um, Kind of like a Sproles running back, smaller end, probably can run behind the offensive line, but can also catch screens in the backfield, which I think they'll try to use, and then have him in open space, have some blockers downfield that can help him create some more angles and running room too. Deuce Vaughn, I think, would be another candidate to be quote unquote breakout for whatever role that he's able to produce as a rookie, as a was 6th round pick rookie or whatever. So I'll go with Deuce.
Yeah, and I do want to go back there. Jalen Tolbert actually was involved in that first preseason game. He had
Okay,
2 receptions for 29 yards and a touchdown. So
there we go.
that just shows they're trying to get him some more things. I was also gonna go with Jake Ferguson just because he's taken over the role of Dalton Schultz. Dalton
Yeah,
Schultz has been a staple in that offense. Um, with Kellen Moore leaving, we'll see. I know that they want to go into more of a running offense, but
yeah,
that means tight ends on the field more often than not. So maybe you'll see more Jake Ferguson, and he has been targeted quite a bit in the preseason, and it sounds like he will probably take over as a number one, even with Luke Schoonmaker being drafted in the second round.
yeah. I would agree.
All right, do you want to go on to your Giants prediction, or do you want to go Eagles
Giants.
next?
No, I'll do Giants.
All right,
Uh,
I'm ready. I've been waiting for this.
I think I'm going to go with Wandale Robinson. This is his second year. He was hurt all of last year, ACL, I believe,
Yep.
unless I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
He's kind of not a gadget player in a bad way, but he's kind of like a gadget player where he's like a receiver. I also think he might be. You could use him a little bit in the backfield, running the ball, possibly. You could put him anywhere around the line of scrimmage, honestly, and I think he could be productive. The playing time he did get last year, statistically, he was in 6 games, had 23 catches, almost 4 catches a game. That's pretty solid as a rookie. Um, 227 yards. It came out to around 38 yards per game, and he did have 1 touchdown. I think in the limited time he played, giving you 4 catches, 38 yards, solid. And I think he grows on it healthy this year. Um, Health wise, he's probably stronger than ever, assuming that he had a full recovery with his surgery. Um, and I think that he just builds off of whatever playing time he had last year, where he was, able to contribute several catches a game in those 6 games. Which, I mean, 4 catches per game, that's solid. That's pretty good. Um, so I think that he has some speed too. You can get creative with him around the line of scrimmage, down the field, different routes. Um, I think if they get him the ball, I think he could be a very solid breakout player for the Giants this year.
I I agree, except I also disagree.
Okay,
You wanna
there you
maybe
go.
we'll jump one in here because I love Wandale Robinson. I
Hmm.
actually this is a little side transition. I mentioned last time I bartend for parties and sometimes, famous football players come in. But this was actually Will Levis's party when he was playing in Kentucky with Wandale Robinson 2 years ago. They're playing Vanderbilt, and their dad. I was talking to their dad. I was like, "Oh, so your son's Will Levis? He sounds." This is before he was, going to be in the draft the next year. So it's like,
Right.
who do you think's going to be like a big drafted player out of Kentucky? He said, "Oh, I think Wandale Robinson might be a 4th or 5th round pick." Well, we got him in the second, and he wasn't a wide receiver on our radar, and my
Hmm.
radar at least. Obviously, he was on Joe Shane's radar. But I'll tell you what, once he was drafted, he's somebody that you just fall in love with. He played running back and wide receiver at Nebraska before transferring over to Kentucky. And it took him a while to get into the offense, but that game where he tore his ACL, on his 100th yard. That was his like breakout game. He was being targeted often and early. He was able to be shifty and get those extra yards. I'm just going to move that there. And he looked great. The thing is, he still hasn't been activated from PUP. That's why he is actually, and I don't think he's going to be disappointing in the sense of Kenny Galladay. I think that he's going to be disappointing in that we will not see him as much this year. But in the way that you're saying, I think when he does get activated and when he is on the field, I think he's going to show improvement. And I think he's going to show more depth. But I just think right now we are the slot machine in New York. We have Paris Campbell as our slot right now, which they're also using Paris Campbell out of the backfield, which I think they'll do with Wan'Dale too. Okay. They've been putting Paris Campbell in the backfield. Cole Beasley, obviously, who nobody really thought would make the roster. Some people did. He's looking like a roster lock right now. I think that he's going to be in front of him, at least in the beginning of the season, working his way in. And then obviously Sterling Shepard out of the slot as well. We just have so many wide receivers. And I think because of that injury, we're not going to rush him back on. So I don't think his numbers will be there. Yeah. But I do see his talent breaking out and him becoming more, especially when people are watching the games, they don't want to know who number 17 is, especially because he's this tiny, what is he, 5'9", 5'8"?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 5'8", yeah, which is one of the reasons. But you know what? And the Bills love those tiny receivers too, like when Joe Shane and Brian Dable were on the Bills. So
yeah. I will say my other breakout for the Giants, it's not like a sexy pick, but it's Thibodeau too. 4 sacks last year. I think that he only, probably doubles, maybe even gets to double digits too in sacks with 10 plus this year. So that was also, that's an easy, in my opinion, a breakout who I think is easy. Not that last year was bad for him, but
no.
I just think statistically, breakout wise and having a year under his belt will do him a lot of good. So I think that he's also solid, not creative, but a solid classic breakout kind of player.
I totally agree with that. Like I said, like he looks amazing in preseason. I think he had a sack in his first game too. I know he had that sack, and he could have had 2 sacks if he wasn't held, which is also just impressive that he's just being that disruptive, bringing that speed. I mean, he looks good. And also another thing, he was in coverage on a couple plays in that preseason and that first drive. And also in a good place in coverage, like his athleticism, that's not a place we've really seen him before.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Maybe if we have, 3 defensive tackles on the field, maybe we drop him back, if we get, A'Shawn Robinson, Dexter, Dexy, and Leonard Williams, or Jordan Riley gets in there, but who knows,
You probably, if he has the ability to drop back a little, that's nice. You don't want to fall in love with that.
That's not what I want to see.
Yeah, because we saw it a lot with Hassan Reddick, how like early on they would drop it. It's like he's not there to defend anybody. He's not there to cover anybody. He's there to sack the quarterback, and that's it. I think Thibodeau has similar, but Thibodeau's so big where maybe he could drop back, a yard or two and just like disrupt and like be a distraction there with a tight end or running back. Yeah.
With the Hassan Reddick thing. I mean, Hassan Reddick, I feel like he broke out against the Giants when he was with the Panthers and he had 5 sacks in one game.
I remember that game.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
I'm sure you do.
But, I mean, obviously he was utilized the best in Philadelphia last year. I think that Wink Martindale, I mean, he loves blitzing. He just likes all these odd blitzing too.
He does.
So, I mean, I don't expect Kayvon Thibodeau to go into coverage often, but I think with some of these weird blitzes, maybe he'll replace a safety that's coming in and try to drop back. And hopefully that safety goes unguarded and just gets that sack. Yeah. So my breakout player is one that I know you love so well, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
And that is Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes, someone who I did not believe in on the night that he got drafted. And then I think watched a million videos to see people that I tried to find the videos where people are like, he actually could be really good. My David Cutcliffe, as I said in the last episode, who told me that he's better than Peyton and Eli. He was saying that around.
Did he have a connection? Was he his head coach in college football by any chance?
Yes. So he was his head coach. David Cutcliffe was his head coach
probably good
at Duke. which is, yes, head coach at Duke and also coached Eli and Peyton, which I know that he had some insight in talking to Dave Gettleman when he was drafted as high as
Right.
he was, shockingly. But he did say, he said it then, he said he's as good as Peyton or Eli. He said it now. He's better than Peyton and Eli. That's what he told me twice. But that's not the reason why he's going to be the breakout player.
Yeah.
He's going to be the breakout player because he has improved. Well, I wouldn't say each year, but last year he showed his best improvement in a brand new system.
Yeah.
Which now he's in his second year and he's a lot more comfortable. And he got paid. Last year, Brian Daboll was feeding Wink Martindale's the plays to see if he had the grit, to show if he could handle it getting stopped and just looking abysmal. It's a tale of two different cities. This preseason, I mean, I don't know if he's still giving Wink Martindale the plays, but if he does, they're not working because he looks amazing. He's gone, I think just a few days ago, he got his first 10 completions off and he hit Darren Waller like 6 times in them. And then obviously, like I mentioned earlier, he was essentially perfect in his drive against the Panthers. His one drive where he marched down the field, 8 of 9, should have been 8 of 8 or 9 of 9, was able to spread the ball. And I think that's probably the biggest thing too. I know when the Giants were winning in the beginning of last season, it had a lot to do with their essence of running the ball, leaning on Saquon Barkley. And then they kind of transferred over to giving Daniel Jones a little bit more, especially when they got Isaiah Hodgins too in there in that mix. We had a little bit more wide receiver, and he looked comfortable. He had the least amount of interceptions last year with 5, which everybody always says, fumbles O'Brien, the turnover machine. No, he went from 12 fumbles, 10 fumbles, 7 to 5. So that just shows, or interceptions rather, 12, 10, 7 to 5. Fumbles. Let's see. How many fumbles here?
I also think, fumbles, too, in my opinion, is kind of a silly step because, they count fumbles regardless if you recover them or not. And it's like, if it's recovered, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, you may have lost a few yards, but it's not like you gave the team the ball on your 22-yard line kind of thing. You got the ball back. So that's why I've always been, weird, I guess you don't want your quarterback just fumbling it, as loosely as they might, but it's if they fumble it 8 times and it's all to their quote unquote self, they get it back instantly, I don't really count. I don't think it's as big of a deal, but
yeah, and I watched, so he went from 18, 11, 7 to 6 in terms of fumbles, but I know they didn't lose all those fumbles, and also I watched every game last season, every snap. Daniel Jones did not look like somebody who ball security was really an issue. I think that he's grown past that. On top of that, we have improved in O-line play. We're projecting, but in preseason, it does look that way. It looked good with the starters in there. Like I said, they didn't have Derek Brown going against us, who was a first-round pick, or Brian Burns, who I think was a first or a second-round pick, but regardless is one of the best edge rushers in the league. But Evan Neal was back out there from his concussion, and he played good. And Evan Neal also last year was atrocious in all of preseason, all of the practicing, and didn't really get much better during the season. This offseason, he practiced with O-line Hall of Famer Willie Anderson, and Willie Anderson spoke very highly of him. And I don't know what he did with Willie, but I'll tell you what, he looks a lot better based on everything that the beat reporters are saying, based on the reps that I am watching of him in practice, the very few that I am. But I think that he's going to improve.
You might be foreshadowing a little bit on my pick.
On your pick?
For most improved for the Giants.
Oh, yeah, I thought you did want to. Oh, you could do that too. Oh, you can
do I did.
Hey, you know what, dude? If you have 2, I like.
I guess that. I have 2.
Well, you know what? We'll get to. Let me finish Daniel Jones. But I'm glad that you see so much improvement in the Giants. That makes me very happy, Jeremy.
There you go.
But and then also, I mean, he was rolling to last season with his receiver core. Yeah, we had Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney. They didn't play at all. At week 1, I was at that game. I saw Kadarius Toney with his stupid headband getting ready to flick us off after he won the Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
Right.
He was not on the field. Who was on the field was not even Darius Slayton. We had Richie James. We did have Sterling Shepard, and Sterling Shepard was great until he got hurt. I mean, we were rolling out with scrubs, and now we have depth. I mean, we have Darius Slayton, who, when healthy, has been a great target since they were drafted in the same year back in 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been the Giants' leading receiver, I think, in 3 out of his 4 years with the Giants. And he was injured one of those other years. And then we have Paris Campbell, who was a second round pick for the Colts, was injured all throughout. He kind of showed something last year. He looks good. Like he's been targeted. He looks good in training camp. Isaiah Hodgins, like I said, blew up last year a little bit. And the biggest one is Darren Waller. We have an elite receiver, and everything. I don't think a lot of people are aware of how big Darren Waller's impact will be on Daniel Jones. He hasn't had a number one. His biggest receiver has been Darius Slayton and/or Golden Tate in his career. So I think bringing in Darren Waller, a true number one, who he has immediate chemistry with, he's getting. I mean, that preseason game, like I said, targeted him 4 times, could have had 45 yards in that first drive. Like, I think that is huge. And then he also has somebody like Jalen Hyatt that, like, he can get those deep balls. I know that we had the least amount of explosive plays last year, I believe, and Darren Waller, I think, had more in his limited time last year than any Giants receiver had in terms of explosive plays down the field. So I think that he's going to be able to show it, and not to mention his legs. He had over 700 rushing yards last year and 3,200 passing yards. I think that this year his passing yards are going to at least exceed 3,700. I think just with all this inflation, I could honestly see him being a 4,000-yard passer, and I think that he still uses his legs. I think that he still has at least 500 rushing yards.
Do you think if he has 4,000, if he has north of 4,000 yards in the air, do you think he's lighter in rushing yards this year?
I think that I do, but I do think that they're going to keep that rushing threat, because that's just going to add. Like, we have so many ways, and that's another thing in the preseason game. On that first drive, I think we had 4 different personnels out. We had a personnel with 3 tight ends on the field. Like, there's just so much in his arsenal this year, and I think that Mike Kafka feels that Daniel Jones is comfortable enough to get into more in depth and have all these different, things at his disposal. And even like Saquon Barkley too, when he's not running it, Daniel Jones could take it off. He could dump it off to Saquon Barkley, or Jalen Hyatt could be down the field. I mean, he has options. I have never been as excited for a Giants offense, and I think since the Eli Odell heyday. I mean, it hasn't been anything close. Just in terms of a complete offense, and I know that we're missing that wide receiver 1, but I think that we have.
You have a lot of talent, regardless. You are missing a wide receiver 1, but you do have a lot of talent overall in terms of pass catchers, playmakers at the wide receiver position. So interesting.
So I think that Daniel Jones had a little breakout, and for terms of breaking out from somebody who people didn't think should be a starting quarterback to somebody who he's showed up as like 9, 8, even like 10, but he's consistently in like the top.
Yeah, he's definitely a starting quarterback
list.
No,
and I think that this year he could make it into where next year we're saying he could be like a top. I'm going to be reasonable here. I'm going to say like a top 7, top 6, even. If he gets 4,000 passing yards, I'm telling you, I think he gets to 6, where he was taken by the Giants when he made me cry on my birthday, being taken by the Giants at 6. April 25th, 2019. I was on the Giants Instagram.
I just can't. Top 6.
I know, dude, and that's why I wanted to see a reaction. But I don't think I'm alone in this by Giants fans, and I don't think that we're.
I know. There are a lot of delusional North Jersey New Yorkers. I don't disagree with you. You guys are crazy.
I got the facts. I put down some facts here to try to make you at least see
top 6. Oh my
potential.
God.
Yeah, I think so.
Just like in this top 6 world, just like the city of Cincinnati, Philadelphia,
Buffalo,
wherever the Chiefs play in Missouri. Yeah, Buffalo, Chargers, LA.
San Diego.
Do they just get wiped off? Do they get wiped off the map? Because that doesn't, like, maybe that's the case. If maybe top 6 then.
And even Lamar, I know.
Lamar too, sure. That
I
quarterback in Dallas too.
Dak. I know Cowboys fans really don't want to hear that. But hey, Dak, the interception master, tied last year 15 interceptions with the other Texas quarterback, Davis Mills.
Yes.
So, and I heard those interceptions are still coming. Hey, I believe in Jalen Tolbert. Don't kill me, all right? I'm just saying. I think.
Top 6. Oh my god, I love it.
All right, that's. Let's see here. And just a quick recap. So Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna put
Yes.
Jalen Hurts.
Behind
And
Lamar?
this is like no. This is like no order.
Okay,
This is no
okay.
order.
Got it.
Lamar Jackson.
That's 4.
Wait, yeah. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen,
No,
Jalen Hurts,
you said Burrow.
Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. That's 5 there.
Yes.
5 there. Can you name one more that might be better than Daniel Jones if he has 4,000 passing yards and 700 rushing yards?
Yes.
Justin Herbert's.
Yes, Herbert.
All right, whatever. I mean, I think Herbert could also have 5,000 passing yards. It
Could.
might have been a little steep there. I think
Top 6.
it might have been a little steep. But you know what? I will tell you this. This is my guarantee.
Yes.
Daniel Jones, healthy all season. Darren Waller, healthy all season. Daniel Jones is a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Again, the whole Pro Bowl thing is kind of silly because, like,
the
top quarterbacks, they don't play because they're in the Super Bowl, or like at least 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks are in the Super Bowl. A lot of guys don't play, so then you get like Kirk Cousins. It's like, so I don't know exactly. What are you saying when you say Pro Bowl? Because like that can mean a lot of
I'm
different
talking
things.
about Pro Bowl caliber, and also maybe dude, Evan Ingram got voted in.
Well, there are 6. Aren't there 6 quarterbacks who go into the Pro Bowl? 3 on each side. Yeah. So you think he's going to be top 6 essentially?
I guess I'm going back to my top 6. I think I am. Also, it's just really top 3 in the NFC. Jalen Hurts.
Is he going to be better than Rodgers?
Rodgers is AFC, man.
Well, that's true, but I'm talking just top 6. Oh, you meant top 6 in the NFC?
No, I'm talking top 3 in the NFC.
Oh, I tried to save you there with top 6 in the NFC. Is he gonna be better than Trevor?
I feel like I need to have this take as a diehard Giants fan, and also for like the hate that I gave Daniel Jones. I wanted to bench him game 1 of week 1 last year. That was an awful interception, but what he showed, the growth he showed, I like him. I like him. Plus, we gave him all the dimes, so you better start freaking dicking and dunking him, dude, all over the field, man. I want Darren Waller to have a piggy bank of dimes by the end of the season.
He probably will of some sort. One more, I'll go with Evan Neal's breakout. Again, Roll Tide. He struggled a little his first year. A lot of offensive tackles do. It's a tough position to play as a rookie. Got a year under his belt. He's a big boy, 6'7". His technique at Alabama was great. He was a great offensive lineman. I think they will teach him up, and he'll be a good player this year.
Yeah, and he struggled with injury too, and like throughout last year too. I think a lot of offensive tackles struggle, but yeah, like I was saying too, he has improved, and I know you being a Bama boy,
he's good. He is good. I like him a lot.
I wanted. I mean, you said Kayvon too, just as an honorable mention, and I mean those two were the players at one point, and like draft doesn't matter, like, but they were at one point the number 1 and 2.
Yeah, drilled it. Yeah,
in their draft, and we got both of them.
Yeah,
thank the Lord. So,
should we go to disappointments?
Wait, I think that we still have the Eagles. We haven't done the Eagles.
Oh, that's right. It's been a minute. So sorry.
Yeah, I know.
I always forget that team.
Yeah, the team that you love the most.
I know. So, I'll start off, I guess. I'm not even trying to troll. There are so many guys you could pick. Like I'm not even like, it depends. Unbelievable. If we're doing rookies, Jalen Carter, I think he is so special. I think he's better than a lot of top defensive tackles in the league right now. We'll just have to wait and see. He's a force against the run. He is quick to the quarterback as a defensive tackle. I think that there might be times where like he doesn't get sacks that he probably should, but he gets hurries because the quarterback just throws it away.
Yeah.
Um, I think he's
I mean,
special.
he's so disruptive. I mean,
Yeah, day one
I
starter. So I think that he's one. I think his buddy who was taken in 30, Nolan Smith, is two. As a defensive end, as he'll rotate in and out, the Eagles love to rotate their defensive ends, give breathers to the starters, with especially with Brandon Graham, who's up there in age and whatnot. Nolan Smith didn't have as many sacks at Georgia, but it was the same thing. He was getting to the quarterback with these, and he was adding pressure, and quarterbacks would just bail out and throw it away. I think he's looked very fast in the preseason games. Goes a little too hard, Nolan. I love it, but cool it down a little. We don't need you hurt, and we can
yeah.
tell like there's talent there.
Well, that's
So
just it's good to see that he has that drive to play
yeah,
hard. And
he's a guy who's like he wants to be out there 110% of the time, which you love to see too. Who else do I have? Those are my rookies, so they're kind of special, different breakouts. I think two guys that I have who aren't rookies. Um, I don't want. Are you thinking about the linebacker, the second year linebacker on the Eagles?
I am. I
I'll
will
give
just
I'll give you him.
yeah.
I'll take Kenny Gainwell, who was the third string running back last year, who seems to be getting a lot of starting touches, who might start this year in the backfield. He was very good in the games he played last year, especially at the end of the year. Giants game in the playoffs, he also played really well, carrying the rock, moving the ball. And I think that he grows as has more of a role in this offense. Can catch out of the backfield too, which is nice. It'll be nice if the Eagles historically, I would probably mention last podcast, they've relied on the screen game with Brian Westbrook, and they went to LaShawn McCoy. And it's like two of the Mount Rushers probably of backfield running back catch game. And then they haven't really had much like within the last few years. It's like help out your quarterback and Jalen Hurts with a running back who can catch a quick little pass, and you blockers going downfield. I think Gainwell's going to be a breakout for the Eagles in some way. He'll be productive running and catching the football.
Is he still? Is it right now? Like, how's that rotation looking? Is it
Really
still just
hard.
up in the air?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think he's been getting. I think he has the most touches in practice since
Hmm.
the beginning of training camp, with whatever that says. So, um, I think it's going to come down to him and DeAndre Swift, two smaller guys. We'll see. We will see. But yeah,
Because I was going to say, DeAndre Swift too is obviously similar. I mean, he is also a pass catching back, but I
yes,
think that I mean, I I've always liked Kenneth Gainwell. Like I said last episode,
yeah,
he came out of Memphis. He was one of those like running back, wide receiver
right.
type digs, and I I think he could be great this year. I'm looking too into this right here. Has he been getting a lot of? Or has he not been getting as many preseason snaps? It looks like I keep forgetting too. Trey Sermon. I really like Trey Sermon out of college. Do
Yeah,
you think he's going to have any role at all in this backfield?
they held him on the roster last year because of this year. I don't know. Again, it's the weirdest. They just have such a weird running back room where it's like
Yeah,
you only have a certain amount of spots. You're only going to have a certain amount of spots that are going to be active on game day. Sermon's intriguing because he's like a powerhouse, but he also won't catch in the backfield. But he's cheap. But he's also dirt cheap, and they like his. He had a big touchdown run last week against the Browns after I think fumbling, which was a good way to redeem himself.
yeah,
It's hard to again. It's so many interesting players, but not like besides Swift, who has I think star potential just with the ball in his hands in some ways. There's not like that. There's not like that Jonathan Taylor to Swift to Gainwell
yeah,
to Sermon, where it's like, okay, that's an order that you can go off of. Sermon can complement them as the worst back, which is pretty good. So it's tough because it's like in that case, Sermon's the worst back currently now. In some ways, people might have Sermon as the third back, last back, fourth. I don't know.
yeah.
It's weird.
So I mean, Nakobe Dean, I don't. He didn't play in the first preseason game, did he?
He
Is
did
that
not.
because he's one of the starters? I mean, last game, like I said, like he looked disruptive. He was there. He was all over the field. something that I think is to note, I think that Zach Cunningham, who has been, he led the league in tackles, I believe, in 2020. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's been a perennial 100 tackle per year linebacker. I think having him there is just kind of like that solid number two that can just be a reliable tackler and
Veteran.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then Nakobe Dean, like his strengths, like he can fly around the field, like he is great in coverage. And now in this year, he's actually going to get that opportunity. I know that he's a little bit undersized, but I think that having somebody like Cunningham, who is that more traditional linebacker, and having Nakobe Dean being able to fly around the field, like I
Yeah.
think that's where he's poised for his breakout. Also, just being around such a dominant defensive line in front of him,
Yeah.
that'll allow him to really like make his way and just kind of focus on his job. I think and he has the talent, but he also has such a great situation around him to flourish as a starting linebacker for the first time in his career in the NFL. So
Yeah. I agree. He I'm excited. I'm excited for him. He might be the definition of a true breakout player, especially from what happened last year. Not getting what I also thought that Dean should get more
yeah,
time, like more downs during games. I think he played a little bit in the Tennessee game and looked awesome. He played for like a little bit over a quarter. I think it was awesome. I'm not saying he would have
yeah,
been that way against other teams, better teams, but I thought there were other times last year where he could have gotten on the field and they didn't put him out there. So
yeah.
better
And
start now, I guess.
it is interesting because, like I said, the Giants. I mean, we rotated our offensive line. I was mentioning last podcast, but we rotated our linebackers a lot. Like
Yeah,
we were moving him, and I know that Nakobe, but it doesn't look like he got that much time. Just looking at his stats from last year,
he
and he
didn't.
didn't start a single game. Yeah,
No, no,
so
yeah,
I'm excited to see what he does because I was a fan of him too.
yeah.
You guys get a lot of fun, awesome players, and that's why I dislike you guys quite a bit.
Listen,
But
we're
I like
always
you
taking
too.
new fans. I appreciate that, Sean. We're
Yeah,
always taking new
yeah.
fans.
Oh yeah, dude. You took my first overall, my favorite player of all time with Michael Vick.
That's right.
Oh, that's. I like Jeremy Shockey a lot too, growing up.
He
But
was a good
yeah,
player, good tight
yeah.
end. Um,
Now it's time for disappointments, correct?
yeah, disappointments. What do we have here? Should I start off?
Yeah, let's start off.
All right, Washington. Who did I say for Washington? Oh, I said a lot. I know what I have.
Yeah,
I have a few for Washington, and these are kind of outside the box kind of ways to think. So my
yeah.
first one is Terry McLaurin, but wait, there's more. I like Terry McLaurin. He's a really good receiver.
I like him too.
There's like an asterisk. It's Terry McLaurin if Sam Howell can't get the ball to him. It's we're seeing a lot too, like with the Bucks with Baker or Kyle Trask
Mhm.
in Tampa with Mike Evans. It's like these guys are Mike Evans is an elite receiver production wise. It's going to be tough
Yeah,
to get him the ball. I think that it could be the same thing with Washington. We don't know how good Hal is. Obviously, maybe he's uh, good from the start, or at least good enough. But I think McLaurin could suffer if the quarterback just isn't there in Washington and can't get the ball to him on the outside. That's one. I have a few others. I don't think I'm taking it away from anyone. Just Chase
yeah,
Young's health. He has not been
yeah,
healthy throughout his career. It would be nice as just even though he went to Ohio State, as someone who appreciates very. I think he's a very good player when healthy, very dominant.
yeah.
And the stats
I
I think
think
would show some more if he played more. It would be nice if he could stay healthy. And the last one for Washington, I have Antonio Gibson, assuming Brian Robinson takes starter snaps. I think, like we said earlier, I think Gibson could still be
yeah,
productive in that offense, yeah, as a backup, but
yeah,
I think he drops off a little bit with second year emergence of Brian Robinson.
yeah. I think he definitely plays more second fiddle,
Mhm.
which I totally agree. Um, Anybody else? I know you have a long list.
Listen, it's Washington. That's they somehow went 8-1 last year, but
That's what I'm
uh,
saying. Like,
they've got a lot of talent. Like I like their off. Like McLaurin, like we said last podcast, McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas when healthy.
yeah,
That's a great group. There's not that's definitely top 10. So
yeah,
and defensively, we know their story with their their defensive line. I don't know. They should player wise. I think they should be better, but overall, when you watch them, it's like they're so
I
blah.
think the question marks, and I was gonna go with maybe one of their offensive linemen, but the thing is that I think the offensive linemen that will struggle, they're not expecting much from anyways.
That's
So,
also I also thought of that too. Yeah, that's a good point.
but I am going with, and I know I mentioned him last episode, Emmanuel Forbes.
Okay.
And I think that might make a lot of people upset because then I know everybody wants to dive into their rookie players, no matter where they're picked or what the projections were. I know that it's not because they picked him early; it's just because he's small. And I was saying
Hmm.
that last episode. He's small, but and that's one thing. He's going to get bullied. I think that he's going to get beat up, especially if he has to play man on bigger wide receivers, especially with that contested catch. But also, the reason why they love him so much is his interceptions. But if you look at the film from his interceptions in college, and this is like every draft analyst was noting this, that went deep into him, is that a lot of those were either thrown directly to him, so his numbers were inflated there, or they were tips, which are just like, right place at the right time. There's a few plays where obviously he made a jump on the ball and was a ball hawk, but I don't think that he's gonna have that productivity in terms of interceptions, especially not right off the bat. And I think that his other struggles, especially that come with his size, are going to show up
They
early and often.
say they say cornerback, besides quarterback, but they say ability wise, the toughest position to play in football is cornerback because
Yeah,
it's so hard going against the best route runners, not knowing the play and not knowing the route. And some of these guys who are physical, have good size, speed, you name it. They say cornerback ability wise is the toughest position to play. As a rookie, I think that only adds to it. I like Forbes. He's an intriguing prospect. I think
and
he'll
and you know what?
I think he'll struggle early on because he's a rookie cornerback who's going to start. I would assume so. I can see him being a disappointment rookie year. A lot of
And
rookies are
what
just in general.
I will tell you this: I initially, when hearing about Emmanuel Forbes, because he was mocked to the Giants a few times, because we
Yeah.
didn't think Deontay Banks would have fallen to us regardless. And I was like, ooh, initially, I see the interception numbers. I see he's small, but he's a playmaker. And that's the thing. When he does get the ball in his hands, he's getting a touchdown. I will
Hmm.
admit, like, he had some crazy, crazy interceptions for returns. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And that's exciting to have. And I think that a lot of Washington players will love him for that. But then I dug a little bit deeper into it, and I do think that it's inflated. And it might be kind of like the Trayvon Diggs effects, where a couple of years ago, some people thought, oh, this guy leading the league in interceptions, and he's gotten better at coverage. But that year, he was not as good in coverage. Like he let up a lot of touchdowns. And I think you're going to see that from Emmanuel Forbes early.
Google has Forbes at 6 feet. Your thoughts?
6 feet. I mean, that's fine. I think it's more his weight. I believe he
Google
was
has it as
166.
180.
Really?
They said he's bulked up. Apparently,
No.
we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll
Um.
see.
Yeah. That's where the physicality really comes into play with weight.
Yeah.
Um,
That's still light. It's definitely better than
yeah,
166.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
Is that who you have? Is that all you have for Washington?
Um, I have like kind of like a. I'll tell you what, and I could have done him as a breakout, but I don't. It just doesn't seem like that storyline's coming. But I feel like Sam Howell is such a toss up in the air, and
Yeah.
and a storyline that I want to follow. I don't want to say that he's going to be disappointing because I don't think he's going to be terrible. I don't think he's going to play himself out of the NFL this year. I think that he's earned it above Jacoby Brissett because he's shown that he can do things spectacular. Like we were
Yeah.
saying last episode, he has those. He had, he was a projected first round pick 2 years ago, and then he also has that rushing ability, which he showed in his last year in college. And I mean, that's intriguing. I mean, that allowed Daniel Jones himself to kind of like rely on his legs and balance it out, and Justin Fields last year too. So I see more and more quarterbacks rushing, and I think the fact that he has that big arm ability and he has that rushing in his arsenal, I think unless everything goes wrong, he could break out. But just being the first year quarterback, he could be disappointing because people are excited because of the things that I just said, and he doesn't live up to those expectations.
I think it's all relative with the quarterback position. I think that it depends on what Washington's expectation is of him. If it's to get experience, to throw the football well, to get some good stats, but also be a bit of a project going into next year, then I think he has room to like work with and be able to make some mistakes. If they wanted to see him be a franchise quarterback, throw for 66%, throw for 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and throw for around 3,800 yards. I don't know if and that's what they view as
No.
success. I would think that would be a disappointing player in that term. So it's hard to see what but like Washington also has. It seems like they have a lot of faith in him being the starter. So it's all about like perspective and like what like kind
Yeah.
of what expectations are on certain players.
And that's what I think I've been trying to hit on,
Hmm.
like specifically, is disappointing based on where we're already projecting them,
Right.
or how like the general consensus outside of the fan base sees them.
Because like
As
if Hal also sucks this year, Washington has a lot of pieces on offense and defense where it's like, well, if we suck, we're gonna get a goodish, we're gonna have a decent pick. Maybe we could trade up. Let's just take a top quarterback in next year's class. So it's like, which is
Yeah,
probably like Caleb Williams. So like out of USC.
or the other
So
North Carolina quarterback, Drake
right,
May.
or May, like or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be funny. So like, it's kind of like a good situation. I don't. You have to be patient, but like if you're not if you just want to see where it is and where it goes, it's kind of a win-win because if he's good, it's like maybe we can work around this. And if he's bad, it's like let's just hit a quarterback in the draft room, and we have talent on offense and defense going forward, so maybe we can make a quicker run at it once we get that quarterback kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, they like we said, they have the team. They just haven't really had the quarterback. Not they have the entire team. The offensive line is still question marks all over there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. So and another thing that I kind of wanted, like De'Ami Brown, I don't think he's in a breakout. I think that
He's
he might have his best season yet.
he's the most
Being with the
popular
NFL.
person. He's been breakout candidate for the last 15 years. It feels like but
Yeah,
I
I
agree. I
know,
mean,
right?
yeah, like I agree. He as a prospect out of UNC, he was
Yeah.
awesome. But
I mean, yeah, and he has a sick name too.
yes,
So cool, dude. So cool. Well, we got Wandale.
yeah, he got something.
Yeah, something, dude.
Um,
Hmm. So next disappointment, I think. Where are we going? Are we going to go Dallas? You want to go Dallas first?
let me see. I have Giants lined up, but I could do Dallas. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we did Dallas last time, so let's do Dallas. We'll save
Okay.
the best teams for last.
Dallas fans are gonna hate me. Stefan. So I have two. I'm gonna say two. Um,
Hmm.
Stephon Gilmore is one. He is gonna be 33 by week two. I think he's going to his 13th year. I think corners just fade out as they get older. They lose speed. It's
Yeah,
kind of what the Eagles are bracing for with Slay and Bradbury too, as Bradbury just turned 30. He's on a new team. I don't know. I feel like Gilmore's gonna drop off. I feel like he did a little bit in Indianapolis. I can't say that like 100% is a fact. I know a few Colts fans who would comment saying like he's just like the team also stunk, but like they're just like he's not at what he used to be. I think he drops off at 33, especially if they think they're gonna get a true
yeah,
top
defensive
like
MVP.
CB1 kind of player.
Which I don't think they do, but I think that they do think he's going to be a strong. But I mean,
Yeah,
you saw it last year with Patrick Peterson. Like there was times where he looked like old Patrick Peterson, and then there's times where he looked awful and
yeah,
atrocious. I mean,
yeah.
and I know the two times that he played the Giants last year, we got the best of him.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
it happens with age.
you'd think that I think Gilmore probably is better than that, but like I think he just drops off. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't, but he seems like someone who might. And the second person, I'll go. He's a rookie, Mozzie Smith. I think he's a nose tackle. He certainly looks like a nose tackle. Um,
Yeah,
I he's not like I think you can move him around a good bit. Um,
yeah, he's a little light for. Is he not?
It's not that he's like light, it's just that he's not like he doesn't look like that powerful. Like he's not like that tall where he can push through, I think. But so those are my two for Dallas. Honorable mention. Dak because it's Dak, but I didn't put him down. But
I don't want
yeah,
to put Dak down, but I mean, and you know what? I haven't really dug, but every time I do look to like, oh, there's the interceptions again. Like
yep.
that's what everybody's saying, and they were there last year. I mean, if you guys want to call Daniel Jones fumbles O'Brien and that stink stays with him for up until now, and I think some people still think that he has a fumbling issue, which he's shown he does not. Then you know what? The Dak interception train can stick around a little bit longer until proven otherwise.
No doubt.
So he is not mine though either because I feel like Dak still has. I mean, and
True,
he's
and I don't.
coming. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to like jinx it where he just goes off this year. Like everybody seems like every year media is like this is a Super Bowl year for Dallas, and like this year like they're not really saying it. It's like oh my god, what if they do something? But yeah, I'm not going to pick Dak, but
yeah.
yeah, those are my two: Gilmore and Mozzie Smith.
I will go back to when Dak first broke his leg. I was working, and we couldn't get the game on at work, and there was a Cowboys fan. We were chirping back and forth, chirping back and forth. I was watching the game. I kept on going to him. I was like, "Dude, Dak just got his leg snapped." He's like, "No, he did not." And I was like, "Oh, we are gonna win." And then Andy Dalton still beat us. But dude, and I felt so bad. Even when Dak got hurt last year, like I texted my Cowboys fans, like, "I'm so sorry for you guys. I'm so like Dak is a great guy. Texts his dead mother before every game. That's just like heartwarming. I know that might sound like I'm busting his balls, but I'm not. I like Dak. I like Dak a lot. I like his Campbell's chicken noodle soup commercials. My disappointing player is Michael Gallup, who also dealt with injury,
That's a good one.
which obviously the ACL held him back to only 420 something yards 2 seasons ago, and then this year he played most of the season. I believe he only missed 2 games, and he was still just not there. I know that so missed 2 games, 420 yards. He did get 4 touchdowns, so he still has that red zone presence, but
Yeah.
he was also the clear number 2 last year. Like
Right.
they got rid of Amari Cooper, assuming Michael Gallup was going to be back to form.
Boy, was that just an off? Well, they couldn't afford Amari Cooper anymore, but so they had to obviously move on. But like that was an
they
awful
paid
move
Michael
all around.
Gallup when they paid Michael Gallup too when they didn't have to pay him. So
Yeah.
but I get it. Like just like they paid Dak when he got injured, they were like, you know what, we're going to be a good franchise. You know, good for you, Jerry Jones. You're an amazing man. But I just don't see him, especially with Brandon Cooks. Like Brandon Cooks has always been a 1,000-yard receiver. I know last year he was a little disappointing. I think just around 700 yards. But I think Brandon Cooks is going to be that clear number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's going to be, I think he's turning 30 going into the season. Brandon Cooks.
He's a concussion away from maybe being a vegetable too.
You think so?
I don't know. I don't know how many more he could take, but good for him. The last few years, staying healthy enough. Where I mean, he's been productive. Like it's pretty impressive how productive he's been.
For so long.
Yeah.
Like the Saints, and then the Patriots. What a Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Rams, right? Or no, not with the Rams. Not with the Rams. He went to the Super Bowl with the Rams.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's not going to the Super Bowl with the Cowboys. Sorry, spoiler alert. But
I would agree too. Gallup was on my disappointing list as well.
Also, like what I said with Jalen Tolbert, I think they're going to try to get Jalen Tolbert a little bit more. I don't know how much they have in this Michael Gallup contract.
Mm-hmm.
Last year,
be good to look into.
Yeah. So last year was probably the first year of the contract. So, but if he has another disappointing year, I feel like he's just becomes a cut candidate. Honestly,
maybe you'd have to look at the contract and see like how they can get out of it, where the guarantees are and whatnot. But yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I think Michael Gallup. I know he had that strong 2019 year.
Yeah.
Then was kind of still like subpar.
Yeah,
2020
disappointing, honestly.
Yeah, he still didn't even break 900 yards, even though he played the whole year. I feel like once you hit that 1,000-yard mark, if you're healthy the next year, you're expected to hit that.
Oh, absolutely.
Mark,
completely. Especially now with 17 games too. Now it's
Yeah,
it's tough to miss that unless you're hurt. But it's tough if you play 17 games as a
yeah.
receiver, as a top 1 or 2 guy. You should get to 1,000.
And I do get that 2020 was the year that they had CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, so
Right.
he was that 3. But I don't know. I don't see him returning to that form. But we'll see. That's my take on the Cowboys. Anybody else you think is going to be disappointing for the Cowboys? Anybody who stands out?
Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I was going to say. I feel like.
Coaches.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of brash getting rid of Kellen Moore. I know that he led to all those interceptions last year. Or they want to say because he was so explosive and so aggressive. But
Yeah.
that's also was why the Cowboys were so great and
Right.
being
You
one of the
can't.
highest
Yeah,
scoring
you
teams.
can't pick and choose if you're Dallas because of that. Kellen Moore was. I never thought he was great. He was definitely innovative enough with some of his ideas. I'll give him credit for that. Yeah, Dallas. You can't blame Kellen Moore though for that. I mean, silly. That's why. That's one of the reasons why the offense was as prolific as it was whenever it was good the last
Yeah,
several years.
and it's funny because now Kellen Moore is over in Los Angeles with the Chargers, and he's like the reason why they're supposed to take this huge jump. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of funny how that works. But that's also another reason becoming more conservatives, being the third wide receiver again. It's not going to be that Kellen Moore where he was still able to get 843 yards. Plus, we don't
Right.
know who he is. I don't think he's returning to the Michael Gallup that they paid the money to, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
But who knows? I mean, I don't want to root against anybody, dude. I don't want to root
Well,
against
no,
anybody.
I root against a lot. I root against all 53 Cowboys.
Yeah.
Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, yes.
I don't see
true.
it like I feel like the last few years. Maybe there's a change with Gallup. It's too many years in a row where he just has not been like any form of a force at all. Well, I guess give it another year, but I don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he hasn't been that crazy player for us. And I know that do you have anything else you want to say about the Cowboys
No,
who might disappoint?
no.
All right, go to the Giants. I did already say mine because we kind of jumped in there with Wandale
Uh-huh.
which I figured just while we were there I would get there. Is there
Dis-
anything that how
dis-
would you? Yeah, go to yours. I want to see yours.
Disappointments. Oh, I have in my text. Hold on. I have Paris Campbell. Just hasn't been productive anywhere yet. Maybe a change of scenery will be good, but
Yeah.
do I have it set? Last year, 63 catches, 623 yards, 3 touchdowns. Most productive year. Catches are there, which is good. Yards are a little down for as many catches as he had. I think he's under 10 yards per reception.
Yeah.
I'd like a little more there. I'd want him in that Colts offense last year to have more than 3 touchdowns as well. But 63 catches was positive. Maybe change of scenery will be good. He just has not been like that productive in the NFL since he's been here for what 3 or 4 years. So maybe playing in New York makes a bit difference. I don't love him. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like he'll be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. I don't know with Slayton or Hodges, but like.
So he's right now our number 1 slot receiver, but I don't think that. But out of like Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins, who I think are going to be mainstays on the outsides, rotated with Jalen Hyatt.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Paris Campbell, out of those 3, will be rotated the most. Like I said, we're the slot machine.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to be moving between Cole Beasley, Sterling Shepard, and then Wandale when he comes back, which is why I had Wandale on there. But I see what you were saying with the Wandale thing. But that's where I can agree with you with Paris Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
As a Giants fan, I'm not expecting – like, honestly, I'm not even – if he could give us the 600 yards again – that would be awesome.
That's solid,
yeah. Like that's especially as a wide receiver 3, essentially. Like
a wide receiver 3, if you're getting 600 plus yards, it's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I guess I just view him as the odd man out in that situation because that should be he should be the starting slot receiver essentially, and it looks like there are other guys who are going to get rotational snaps because they do have talent, but because like ultimately because I don't think Paris Campbell's good enough. And I think other guys make a better case too. So for me, I think I view him as the odd man out and why he would be, I guess, a disappointment.
Yeah, so I will tell you this. When they were tracking targets and receptions throughout camp, Paris Campbell was third.
Okay.
So that just shows that they do like getting the ball to him. I mean, Daniel Jones got the ball to him.
And
I mean,
that's including Waller too in that.
that's included. It's Waller by a clear margin, then Slayton,
Mm-hmm.
and then actually a pretty good gap between Slayton and Campbell. And then Campbell and Hodgins were right around that same level. And that was for Bobby Skinner, who was at Giants training camp, and he was tracking all the
And
targets.
Campbell was Campbell
yeah,
getting those targets out of the slot.
he was getting those targets out of the
Okay.
slot.
So
Yeah.
it could also be easier plays for.
Well, like you said, he
But
had the receptions, but he didn't
right.
have the
I
yeah,
see.
didn't have the
Got
yardage. So I mean, honestly, ideally, and this is not probably what a lot of Giants fans want, but like I want Sterling Shepard to be healthy, and I want him starting the slot. But I
it.
think that and even Brian Dable was just, and after the last preseason game was talking about how he is always in contact with Sterling Shepard because Sterling Shepard is just such a great player and is such a great voice in that locker room. And they're trying to make sure that he is like, I think they're going to use him sparingly. And I think that's why we
Mm-hmm.
loaded up on slot because if we can keep Sterling Shepard healthy, he is a weapon to just go off in any game and also just be that reliable slot. Like, I know that a lot of people that aren't Giants fans probably have not really followed his career trajectory because he's kind of been a little Paris Campbell-esque where
Yeah.
he's gotten hurt. But when he's on the field, he has always been somebody to look to and somebody to look forward to watching too. So I don't see that much of, and that's why I have Wandale as I'll go back to him as my disappointing. And I don't think he's going to be disappointing when on the field. I just think that his production this year, coming off that injury with so much depth right now. I mean, knock on all the wood I have, dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
That's fair. I think that's fair.
yeah.
Do you want?
But I'm
But
curious.
I also have a second disappointment for the Giants.
Okay,
And you
let's
know
hear it.
who it is.
Yeah, I
It's
think
one.
I do.
It
I think
is
I do.
Mr. Daniel Jones. And hear me out. Again, this comes from a relative perspective. It's what do the Giants think they're going to get from Daniel Jones? Do they think if you want him to have another year like last year, goodish year. Middle of the pack, probably 13 to 15th around quarterback. Good. They made the playoffs. Whatever. If this is year 5 for him, how good do you want him to be? If you want to be a top 10 quarterback, well, you got to see a lot of growth. So, like, last year was a big jump for him, which is good. But you need to see a lot more. And I think if they don't make the playoffs, slash, if they do something similar where, like, they make the playoffs, but lose in the first round and get, like, slaughtered like they did last year, I think that that's going to be a disappointment because you just want him like he's not like you've just given so many years to him and he's developed and Dable is good for him for sure, no doubt.
Yeah.
He did a great job last year, but like the end goal is to win and it's to win playoff games. And I think that that standard has to be applied to Daniel Jones eventually. I think last year it was more like Giants football is relatively back. We have a good coach, a good offensive mind. We made the playoffs. Coaching was far superior to anything Joe Judge or anyone before that gave
Pat
us.
Shermer,
Pat Shermer, yeah, no doubt.
McAdoosh.
McAdoo, yeah, except you got all the names.
Yeah.
But it's like, how patient can we be for a guy who I guess next year be his 6th year in the league?
Next year will be his 5th year, actually.
5th year. So how
Yeah.
patient can we be for someone going to the 5th year who's going to be how old? 26?
26. Yeah. I
Okay,
believe
so
so.
something like that. Who has shown positivity, but also has, you know, who's a middle of the field kind of quarterback, more or less. Let's say, yeah, mid like 15th. So that's why I have him as disappointment. It depends on how you view success, I think, with the Giants. And I agree, they don't have a number one receiver, but they have a
Mhm.
lot of good players around him who can catch the football. So I don't want that to be an excuse for
But this is like the first year where I feel
sure.
comfortable with
That's
our receiver. Like Darius Slayton was a cut candidate last year, and I'm glad he didn't
Sure.
get cut. Yeah.
Right. And I agree. But like if that's the case, then he has to perform very well this year because he has a lot of talent around him. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I'm so like and of course that sounds obvious, but like he yeah, I think that if he does what he does last year, good-ish, but you want to see more growth from him, and you get to a point where it's like, how much
I
more
agree with that.
can we dress up um, this guy to be this duck who we're getting the best out of, but ultimately we're not getting to the second round of the playoffs, or we're not making or missing the playoffs too. So we'll see.
I'll tell you what, I think if Daniel Jones is healthy and there's no injuries to any of the core members of
The
the
offense.
offense,
Hmm.
yeah, then and we're not making the playoffs, I think that will be incredibly disappointing because you don't
Right.
pay that guy. You don't
Absolutely.
pay him to be your quarterback if he can't get you to the playoffs.
And
At
I
least,
think,
like you're competing for a Super Bowl
yeah.
and giving him that money and locking into him. So that will be. I'm just reading the tea leaves and what I see. Like I do see that. It's just
Hmm.
all of the stories that I'm hearing, and who knows? Like preseason's preseason, but based on the new weapons that he has, the improved line. I mean, he's playing against essentially the same exact defense in practice. Played against the Panthers defense, also looked amazing against them.
Hmm.
Lions, I know in practice, the first one, travel day, didn't look that good. Second day, he looked that he looks exceptional right now. He's got a new swagger, he's got a new moxie. I know I was listening to Pat McAfee talk about Mariota's lost his moxie. I mean, I don't know. I think that confidence does have something to do with it, and
Sure.
I think having the support of the entire team, everybody was so happy that he got that contract. Nobody was
Yeah.
like, "Damn, we're paying Daniel Jones." Maybe Jaquan Brisker of the Bears was pissed off,
Right. Right.
like,
Right.
but I mean the team, and I would say all Giants fans that watched last season were happy that he got paid because he was actually very fun to watch. Like he was able to make good reads. He wasn't making dumb decisions aside from week one, that one play that I keep talking about, that was devastating. But he like his every time he took off, I think that I got a text from like 7 people. Danny Vanilla Vic, which is another reason why I love. He got the nickname of my first love in football, Michael Vick. Like Vanilla Vic, I
No,
love it.
Vic.
I love it. He is an underdog too, which is I love to root for. But
Yeah.
that's not why. I mean, I think I'm the most excited. Yeah, Sam Howell, it's the first time you're seeing him. That's excited. I mean, obviously I'm a Giants fan too, but I'm excited to see Daniel Jones take that next step. And I think that it's more likely than not. And I don't think he's going to regress. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe he'll have a few more turnovers, but if he does, it's because he's going to be more aggressive.
That's different. Yeah. If people are
Yeah.
more, that's why turnovers. I think you have to look a little more. I agree. You look more into it.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say too is just like I wasn't thrilled when we took Jalen Hurts, and
Oh, I know.
after his second year, which was his first year he started,
Hmm.
I wasn't sold on him. And then he developed into the second uh, place MVP last year. I'm not saying that's what I'm looking at for Daniel Jones. I just think that there's a lot of room for him to get better, and he's had a lot of time. And to be at where he is now, if I'm a Giants fan, is a little behind the 8 ball. I don't know what that means. It's a little behind where
Yeah.
maybe he should be. But again, like it's all relative. It depends on like what the plan is long term, short term. If you really think if there's like a few twitches to Dable where he really, really thinks he could develop Daniel Jones into a superstar, I find it hard to believe. But that's the also thing. If they don't, I mean, give Dable a more talented quarterback,
Oh,
and
100%. But
this guy could be the limit.
and this is what I want to say there. So obviously Jalen Hurts was picked a full year after Daniel Jones.
Hmm.
So and he made that turnaround quicker. But
Sure.
Daniel Jones, like he said, he was drafted with Pat Shermer, failed.
Yeah.
Joe Judge and a Jason Garrett that was like literally passing the ball behind the line of scrimmage, like it's 3rd and 9, and he's
Yeah.
passing it, 7 yards. Like, it
Joe
was
Judge
terrible
might
play
be the
calling.
worst football mind ever. I'm not even
Yeah, I mean, look what he
yeah,
did to Mac Jones in the Patriots last
yeah.
year. Like, now people don't have any faith in Mac Jones. His rookie year, people thought he was going to be the
Yeah.
next big thing. And also, this is so Nick Sirianni, who not too many people believed him in initially,
Mhm.
just from his hire. But I mean, in his first year, what was Jalen Hurts' record the
Not
first
me,
year under
Nick.
Sirianni?
I was always a believer. What's that?
But what was that? What was that? That wasn't an amazing record, right? That was
No,
you guys
they were 9-8.
9-8, and then you
Yeah.
guys got crushed by the Bucks in the playoffs.
Got crushed. The score came out to like 31-15, but they were down 31 nothing going into the fourth, and like it was dreadful. Like that was like a game where like in the first half, Hurts threw some of the worst interceptions in the red zone at the goal line too. That are like everything was so late, like it was just awful. And he turned it around.
And
Like
look how
I
he
don't know,
grew to be an MVP candidate the
no
next year
doubt,
underneath Sirianni. And
true.
we made the playoffs, won one game against, I don't care if you want to say it was a terrible Vikings defense. It's still a playoff defense. And
Yeah,
and Daniel Jones looked good against it.
yeah,
So
I think that was a Minnesota team that collected enough wins early on where they just were able to fall backwards into the playoffs, and then they were like, I think that was, but yeah, you still went into Minnesota and you beat that. That was impressive. Yeah, I'll give you that. I just don't see the jump with Daniel Jones like that. Like I think he could be better. I don't see top six though. I'm sorry.
hey, I'll tell you what, I see more reason for optimism than not.
There
I
you go.
also, trust me, I am not sold on him being top. But I do see a path with it. It might be a little bit of fantasy. It might be a little bit of looking at all these different factors, aligning to optimism, where he could be in that top six conversation. I don't think anybody's going to be like, Daniel Jones is definitely top six, top five. I don't think anybody will ever, especially given his past. But I think that he could be considered based on good play and better circumstances. And I know I don't think we've mentioned this all episode, but we are playing much harder competition this year. So
That's. Hmm.
we'll see how that all stacks up too.
Oh, I love New Yorkers. They're like Philadelphians. So both fan bases are delusional in their own ways.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I think I've always been a little delusional.
Listen, well,
I made a bet with you that Kadarius Toney would have a better career than Devonta Smith. That was after his huge game against Dallas, and thank you for not taking that bet. Thank
that's
you.
yeah. I don't want to take in those situations. I feel bad, but yeah.
Yeah,
Both New York and Philadelphia. Honestly, they have their loony fans. For Eagles disappointments.
yeah.
This
You
was
got
tough. Like, and I'm not even trying to like troll, but like I look at someone like the Eagles lost. Uh, God, what's his name? The safety
CJ
who's with,
CJ
yes,
Chauncey
Johnson,
Gardner Johnson. Yeah.
who led the league in interceptions. I think he was tied. Big playmaker. Didn't do much the second half, but like was still a force. I think in the defensive backfield, which was nice.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks like they're like Terrell Edmonds will start. I think he'll be okay, but he's not. He's not a playmaker. He's not going to get interceptions. I think he has like 5 years. He has like five interceptions, no forced fumbles. He's just a block kind of player. He's a vet. He has good experience with Pittsburgh, so he's not awful. He just seems like a little blah and just like I don't know, not
I
as
feel like
productive.
he's somebody who I have always linked with his brother, who's always been exceptional,
Right.
Jermaine Edmonds,
Sure.
but he's always been the lesser of the two,
Well, it's
and
funny too
obviously different positions.
because you have Sidney Brown, who I think will ultimately surpass Edmonds in sometime during the season. So I think Edmonds is like could be disappointment. If I'm thinking of someone else on the Eagles, maybe Quez Watkins. He seems refocused and with a better attitude this year, but just as a starting slot receiver, we saw last year how uh, poor he was. I think that he could also be a disappointment again as wide receiver 3. And the year before, he looked good, but I don't know, just confidence-wise, ball catching-wise, ability. I think Quez could be a disappointment. So that's who I have: Quez Watkins and Terrell Edmonds out of safety position for the Eagles.
That's fair. So you really think Reed Blankenship though? You think Reed Blankenship, what undrafted free agent last season?
Out of
He really
Middle
solidified himself.
Tennessee. Yeah, he's been good. They really like
MTSU
him.
man.
Yes, I liked him a lot last year. Um, he was basically always at the right place. Like he made some plays which was nice, but he never made any like stupid plays. He had a bad ankle against Green Bay, a game that I was at, but the game was kind of like it wasn't out of hand, but they were okay. But that was also, that was his first game in there. He had an interception that game as well. That's when he went in for Gardner Johnson when he got hurt with the lacerated kidneys or whatever.
Yeah,
He could be a little bit of a drop off. I don't think he'll be too much as long as he stands his ground tall and just stays in position, doesn't get out, and you know makes a few hits. I think he'll be fine. Do I think he'll be
yeah,
great? Do I think he'll get even a lot better this year? Probably not. Maybe a little bit, maybe more experience, maybe a little, but
yeah,
I don't think he'll go downhill. I just think he'll stay pretty even, essentially.
yeah. He won't be
But
a
maybe,
weakness.
it's also it's one of those positions where if busted coverage up top, maybe he was also someone I considered, but I think he'll be good enough.
So who I picked, and I feel like this one, I think all Eagles fans won't like, but I will say this. It's not that I think he's going to disappoint on the field. It's a similar thing to Wandale Robinson. I think his opportunities won't give him enough time to shine. I think that Jalen Carter is going to be. Oh yeah, but I probably should say Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis, the Eagles, one of the first round picks for the Eagles last year, also
Yes.
out of Georgia. I just think Fletcher Cox is going to still be in there. I think if you're using your best players, I think Fletcher Cox still has it. And I think and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't been paying enough attention. Maybe he doesn't look like the same Fletcher Cox at the training camp.
He doesn't look like the same Fletcher Cox, obviously in his prime. He did have 7.5 sacks last year, which
That's what I'm saying.
you'll take any at his age. You'll take
From a
any. He
defensive
was
tackle too,
for
yeah.
limited snaps too because they rotate him. He was pretty productive. I don't think he'll do that again this year. I think he could still be productive as long as they rotate him. But Jordan Davis is a guy where it's he's going to have to be rotated in and out just because of his size
Yeah.
and whatnot. So
And I love Jordan Davis. Like I think
yeah,
he's a freak of an athlete. Like he's someone who and I know I should probably be a little bit bigger with this, but he's somebody who could also break out because of his play during his time on the field. But I
yeah.
just think with that rotation, and I think maybe a better pick would be one of those two, either Fletcher Cox, which disappointment too. It's how old is he now? Like 30, 36, 35?
Oof.
I don't know.
I
I
think that
don't know. I don't have a Rolodex of every player's age, unfortunately. You
right.
got it?
I
But
do. He's 32. Will be 30.
32. Oh,
Will be 33 December 13. But he's an old again, football players age differently. Where
yeah.
if you're that size, hand in the dirt as a defensive tackle for the last 12, 14 years, that probably adds another 3 years, more or less. I don't know, but
Yeah.
he's an old 32 who definitely
Yeah.
is on the very close to retirement in my opinion.
Yeah. 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 Well, the other thing is that for Jordan Davis is that they obviously didn't think he developed enough throughout the season, or they probably wanted to just that's where they attacked when they were making that postseason run with Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. I'm
He
just
got
saying,
he got hurt mid-season. He looked great up until
oh
then. He was stopping the run. He was clogging the lane. The next game where he was hurt, the Eagles couldn't stop the run at all. So they brought in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, which was a good band-aid until he returned. Jordan Davis got back, wasn't the same. I think the injury was still nagging him. And he said this year he had imposter syndrome, where it's he was thinking I can't be this good or whatever. And with the injury too, that didn't help. He's I can't be as good as I am, right? Which is only an Eagles issue to have guys who are really
yeah,
talented, not thinking they're talented. It's unbelievable.
yeah.
Uh,
Now I feel bad.
no, no,
I
no, no, no.
feel
I mean,
bad.
he's also someone who's not going to statistically, he's not going to have huge number of tackles. He's not going to have huge number of sacks. Although it would be nice if he could find a way to get to the 7 to 8,
Yeah. But
seven and a half
he
point
wasn't
sack.
expected to be,
Right.
a sack or pass rusher.
No, not at all.
So
It would be nice, those guys can get through though. So you'd want to, I think, half a sack per game per season in a 17 is pretty ideal and great for him. But if not, whatever.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you guys have
so
the edge rushers too to complement it, which
that's
is
also
why
true.
he's a
Someone
great force to just be
someone will
in the
get to
middle.
the quarterback ultimate. They're all getting to the quarterback. Someone will ultimately finish the job, which is yeah, good. So yeah, it's an interesting pick. When healthy, again, it's fine because like the first however games he played last year, very productive. Like he was solely responsible in stopping the run. And then you noticed it when he wasn't out there and hurt, and they're like, "Oh my god, we have to bring in Linval Joseph and Stu."
Yeah,
So
and Linval
that's what
Joseph,
that's
I
what
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
that's what fans forget in Philadelphia. But he's
yeah,
healthy now, so we'll see. We'll see with him.
yeah. We'll see. I mean, I think that, like I said, tremendous player. We'll see. Is health like is that been a concern at Georgia as well,
I
or is
don't
this
think so.
relatively new? Yeah.
I think his size, it's always a bit of a concern with lower extremities with these guys and whatnot, but I don't think he had any issues really at Georgia ever.
All right. I know the Giants, and this is just a side thing. Like the Giants have gone really into sports science and like changing the field. I think I
Yes.
mentioned that before. That's what is that something like
Do you
is there been reports of like players like I know Jordan Davis probably wants to get his reps, but because of his injury, has he been taking like days off and
Yeah, the Eagles have been into sports science since Chip Kelly, and it worked a lot the first year with Chip. They were on like special like smoothies, and it was like revolutionary, and like it was wild. It was like one of the only things Chip was like good at. But the Eagles have been into sports science for probably a decade now. They don't they practice probably an hour at most. They don't hit at all. They don't tackle, obviously. They don't hit.
yeah.
And it showed a lot last year because they weren't hurt at all last year. So
Yeah.
a lot of teams are following that lead. I think the Eagles were kind of pioneers in this whole thing. A lot of teams are
Yeah.
doing it similar. It just makes sense. You have to like these guys are gonna break in half if you go hard 100% of the time. So the Eagles they uh they do a lot of walkthroughs, but like they'll also just do like 45-minute practices. And it's like and a lot of the players
Sounds
respond
like a
to it.
good place to be, man.
No doubt that like health wise it's good, but like if these guys are able to retain all the information in that time, you don't need more time to go over stuff and overanalyze and whatnot. So it works. I think it works on both ends.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles'
Well,
longest practice the last few years with Sirianni was like an 90 minutes to an hour and 45. And that's crazy.
wow.
That's like back in the day with Andy Reid with the Eagles. Eagles would do two a days, like 2 hours each side. It's like it's different now. It's better. I mean, it's better.
Yeah.
It's a gladiator sport, and there's got to be changes if you want these guys to preserve
Oh
their
yeah.
bodies. So,
Hey, that
yeah,
was a big change from Brian Dable to Joe. I mean, Joe Judge. That was this huge thing is that he would have everybody play run laps, and I guess this was something. If Joe Judge got a third year, he was going to build a hill at the Giants practice facility for the players to run hills.
that's what
So,
guys really want to do.
oh yeah. You know, and when that was coming out and people were criticizing it, I was like, no, well, I think he knows what he's doing. But I was like, no, I hate that guy too, man. And
Unbelievable.
yeah. Well, I think we got to everything. I think we're not missing any breakouts, any disappointments. I think we hit them all
I don't
there.
think so. No more disappointments for the Eagles then for you.
Yeah, no more disappointments for the Giants either. I think it's kind of funny how we flip flop there. Like your breakout was my disappointment, and your disappointment was my breakout for the
Yeah,
Giants.
with the Giants, yeah, that's just I just view I don't have like I
I
don't
think
have
we both viewed it differently too,
yeah,
though.
you view it as
Like we
who do you
thought it
think could be
was
the odd man out slash like
yeah,
I just yeah, I don't know how productive Hyatt will be his rookie year for good reason.
yeah,
Like that's not a bad thing necessarily. So yeah, it's just different perspectives, I think, in that case.
yeah. Well, I'm hoping that he gets a lot more of those 33-yard touchdowns that we saw last preseason game because He's been getting them in practice, so hopefully we get 1 to 3 to 7 of those a game. Maybe not 7, but if we
Well,
can get like,
listen, why stop at 1?
I
3,
think if we can
4,
get
5.
3 to 4 shots, you know, hey,
Well, that was the
I
thing too. When you said that, I think I mentioned it earlier. If I forget the stat you gave, but like if Hyatt is averaging 1 deep ball per quarter, oh my god, you guys are probably in good business, you would think.
yeah, but I mean that's also like I would like to maybe do those on like say if we get like a 2nd and 5, take
Yes.
that shot. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do that every third down, and I don't think the
Right.
Giants will. I mean, it
It
hasn't
helps
really
if you
shown. Yeah,
strong offense. The better your offense is, the more shots you can take like that. Because if you're willing to sacrifice a play and have 3rd and 5, hopefully your head coach, I think Dable would too. They have a lot of
yeah.
different options they could do, and
Oh
the
yeah,
weapon, especially the weapons with 3rd and 5. Even if you don't get yards, you still have some options. Maybe even you do a play where you get close to the first down marker, and it's like you're aggressive. You're like 4th and short.
little
Uh,
switch. Yeah.
yeah, you can get it. The Eagles will do that push, the quarterback, the tush push.
Oh yeah, I know the tush push. You
They
guys are
tried
very
to
lucky.
cancel it.
I know they tried. They can't cancel the tush push, and that sucks. I mean, listen, I feel like Daniel Jones doesn't have the worst buns in the world. I feel like Saquon can get back there with his
He's
legs.
big, yeah. It
He's
doesn't take
big.
much. These guys are. I remember when Carson was like success, like early on in his career in Philadelphia. He was
Yeah,
pretty successful. Like, just get a big guy who like can extend, and you got it. Like,
yeah.
it's not that complex if it's really inches to go. For the first down.
Listen, I want to see a few tush pushes with us too. I mean, with Saquon Barkley squats, I don't know if you saw those videos in the offseason, but
I
if
did
he's getting
see
behind
them.
Daniel Jones, you know,
I
he's
can't
getting
wait.
in there.
I can't
Yeah,
wait.
it's gonna
Him
look good,
against
dude.
Jordan Dave. Oh my god, I can't wait.
Oh
That'll be
yeah.
fun.
Oh,
That'll just be fun.
but hey, we got JMS, dude. We got John Michael Smith, dude. He's I'm happy for him. I think we could keep talking for forever, but I think we just hit the 2 hour mark. Is there anything you
Yes.
want to say before we close out?
Go Birds.
All right. I see men for the G men. Bleed blue. Sexy
Unreal.
dicks.
There it is. New York
I
fan
wish I
base.
didn't do that, man.
Unbelievable.
All right. Catch you later, Jeremy.
All right. See you, Sean.